Right now, somewhere in America, there is a 22-year-old sitting at a kitchen table with exactly $1,000 in a savings account. Maybe it took them 6 months to save that. Maybe it was a birthday gift. Maybe it was the first time in their life they had any money left over after paying bills. And they are staring at that number on their phone screen thinking, what do I actually do with this? And here's the thing that nobody tells them. That $1,000 sitting right there, doing nothing is already losing value. Every single day, it sits in a low-interest savings account. Inflation is quietly eating it. Not dramatically, not all at once, just slowly, silently, like a leak in a wall you can't see. By the time they notice, the damage is already done. But what if that same $1,000, handled differently, with a specific system and enough time, could become $100,000, not through luck, not through some viral stock pick, not through crypto gambling at 2 a.m., through a process that is so well documented, so mathematically proven, that the only reason most people don't use it is because nobody ever sat down and explained it to them properly. That is exactly what we are going to do today. And I need you to stay with me through the whole thing, because the part that changes everything is not at the beginning. It's in the middle, when the pieces start connecting in a way you probably never expected. Let's start with something that sounds simple, but almost nobody truly understands. Money has two states. It is either working or it is dying. There is no neutral. There is no pause button. Every dollar you own is either generating more dollars or losing ground to inflation. And most Americans right now, today, have the majority of their money in the dying state without even realizing it. The average American checking account earns somewhere between 0.01% and 0.5% interest per year. Meanwhile, inflation over the last few years has been running anywhere from 4% to 9%. That means if you have $10,000 sitting in a regular bank account, you are effectively losing between $400 and $900 of purchasing power every single year. The number on your screen stays the same, but what that number can actually buy keeps shrinking. That is not saving money. That is slowly going broke while feeling financially responsible. And this is the first block you need to understand, the difference between nominal value and real value. Nominal value is the number you see. Real value is what that number can actually do in the real world. $1 in 2000 and $1 today are both called a dollar, but they are not the same thing. The $2,000 could buy roughly twice what the 2024 dollar can. That gap, that silent erosion, is what happens when money sits still. So, the first move in turning $1,000 into $100,000 is not about picking the right stock or finding the right app. It is about understanding that doing nothing is already a decision, and it is the most expensive decision most people make. Now let's talk about what actually happens when you put that $1,000 to work. And I want to do this properly, because most explanations of investing stop at the surface level and never show you the full picture. When you invest $1,000 in a broad market index fund, something like VU or SP, which tracks the S&P 500, you are not buying one company. You are buying a tiny piece of the 500 largest companies in America all at once. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson & Johnson, all of them in one single purchase. And historically, that collection of companies has returned an average of about 10% per year over the long term. Now, 10% sounds like a modest number. It doesn't sound like the kind of number that turns $1,000 into $100,000. But here is where the first block snaps into place. That 10% doesn't just apply to your original $1,000. It applies to everything you've accumulated. Every year, your return generates new money. And then, that new money also starts generating returns. It compounds. It builds on itself, like a snowball rolling down a hill that gets bigger not because you keep adding snow, but because it picks up more snow as it moves. In year one, your $1,000 earns $100. Now you have $1,100. In year 2, you earn 10% on $1,100. That's $110. Now you have $1,210 in year 3. 10% on $1,210. That's $121. Now you have $1,331. The numbers seem small at first, almost disappointing, and this is the exact moment most people give up or lose interest. They look at their account after year 1 and think, I made $100. This is pointless, and they pull the money out. They buy something. They reset the clock. But what they don't see, because they stopped too early, is what happens after year 10, year 15, year 20, because compounding doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows exponentially, which means the curve starts nearly flat and then suddenly bends upward so sharply it looks like a mistake. After des years at 10%, your $1,000 becomes $2,594. After 20 years, it becomes $6,727. After 30 years, it becomes $17,449. After 40 years, $45,259. After 48 years, over $100,000. From $1,000 to $100,000. 100 times your original investment, created entirely by time and the mathematics of compounding. You didn't work for that extra $99,000. You didn't stress for it. You didn't check the market every day for it. You just didn't interrupt the process. But here is where it gets really interesting, and where most people's understanding of this system is completely incomplete. Because what I just showed you assumes you only invest once, one single $1,000 deposit, and then you never touch it again. And even that turns into $100,000 given enough time. Now imagine what happens when you keep adding to it. This is the second block. Regular contributions, because the real power of this system is not just in the compounding, it's in the combination of compounding plus consistent deposits over time. And when those two forces work together, the math becomes almost difficult to believe. Let's say after investing that initial $1,000, you commit to adding just $200 a month, not $2,000, not $500, $200 a month, roughly $50 a week, or about the cost of a few meals out and a couple of streaming subscriptions at 10% annual return. Here is what happens. After 10 years, you have invested $25,000 total. Your account is worth approximately $43,000. After 20 years, you have invested $49,000 total. Your account is worth approximately $153,000. After 30 years, you have invested $73,000 total. Your account is worth approximately $452,000. You put in $73,000 over 30 years and ended up with $452,000. The market created $379,000 that you never earned, never worked for, never stressed about. It was created purely by the mathematical engine of compounding running in the background of your life while you went to work, raised a family, lived your life. And this is the part that genuinely should stop you for a second. Because we are not talking about a get-rich-quick scheme. We are not talking about picking the next Tesla or timing the market perfectly. We are talking about a completely ordinary, boring, automated process that has been available to every American for decades, and that the majority of Americans are not using. So why aren't they using it? This is the question that actually matters. Because the information is not hidden. The math is not complicated. The tools are not expensive or difficult to access. You could open a brokerage account in 15 minutes on your phone and buy your first index fund with $1. So, what is actually stopping people? The answer is a combination of 3 things that work together to keep most people financially stuck. And understanding these 3 things is just as important as understanding the investment strategy itself. Because if you don't see the system that's working against you, you'll keep making the same decisions and wondering why nothing changes. The first thing is the illusion of complexity. The financial industry has a strong incentive to make investing seem complicated because complexity justifies fees. It justifies advisors. managed funds, complicated products with long names and confusing structures, if investing seems hard and risky, and something only experts can navigate, then regular people stay on the sidelines or hand their money to someone else to manage, and that someone else charges for the service. The truth is that the simplest investing strategy, buying a low-cost index fund and holding it for decades, outperforms the vast majority of actively managed funds over the long term. Simplicity wins. But simplicity doesn't sell. The second thing is short-term thinking. We are wired to respond to immediate rewards and immediate threats. $1 today feels more real than $10 in 20 years. This is not a character flaw. It's how human brains evolved. But it is catastrophically expensive in the context of investing. The people who build serious wealth are not necessarily smarter or luckier. They have simply learned to override that short-term instinct and think in decades instead of days. They understand that the discomfort of not spending money today is the price of freedom later. The third thing is fear, and fear is the most powerful of the three because it can paralyze even people who understand the math and have overcome the complexity illusion. The stock market goes down, sometimes dramatically, and when it does, the instinct is to sell, to protect what's left, to get out before it gets worse. But here is what the data shows: every single market crash in American history has eventually been followed by a full recovery and new all-time highs. Everyone, the people who lost money permanently in the stock market were the ones who sold during the crash and never got back in. The people who held or who did nothing, who resisted the fear, recovered, and eventually This brings us to something that almost nobody talks about when they explain how to build wealth, and it might be the most important block in the entire system. It's the concept of what you don't do mattering more than what you do. Most investment advice focuses on action. Buy this, invest in that, diversify here, rebalance there. And while some of those actions matter, the research is overwhelmingly clear that the single biggest driver of long-term investment returns for regular people is not which funds they pick or when they buy. It's how long they stay invested without interrupting the process. There is a famous internal study done at Fidelity, one of the largest brokerage firms in America, that looked at which customer accounts had the best performance over a long period of time. And the results were surprising even to the people running the study. The best performing accounts belonged to people who had forgotten they had the account. People who had died and whose accounts were just sitting there, untouched, compounding silently. And people who had simply never logged in and never made any changes. The worst performing accounts belonged to the most active investors. The ones checking every day, making adjustments, reacting to news, trying to optimize. All of that activity, all of that effort produced worse results than doing absolutely nothing. This is the counterintuitive truth at the center of this entire system. The less you do, once the money is invested correctly, the better your outcome. Not because the market rewards laziness, but because the market punishes reactivity. Every time you sell during a dip, you lock in a loss. Every time you chase a hot stock, you buy hot. Every time you pull your money out for something that feels urgent, you reset the compounding clock. The $1,000 that becomes $100,000 does so because someone left it alone long enough for the math to work. That's the whole secret. And it sounds almost too simple to be true, which is exactly why most people never actually do it. Now let's connect this to something bigger. Because this is not just about $1,000 or even $100,000. What we've been talking about is a fundamental shift in your relationship with money and time. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every financial decision you make is either adding blocks to your compounding structure or removing them. Every time you pay off high-interest debt, you're removing a block that was working against you. Every time you increase your monthly contribution by even $50, you are adding a block that will multiply over time. Every time you avoid a bad financial decision, an unnecessary loan, an impulse purchase on credit, a withdrawal from your retirement account, you are protecting blocks that are already in place. The people who end up wealthy are not the ones who made one brilliant move. They are the ones who consistently made slightly better decisions over a long period of time. They bought the index fund instead of the lottery ticket. They increased their 401k contribution when they got a raise instead of upgrading their lifestyle. They held through the crash of 2008 and 2020 and every correction in between. They were not geniuses. They were just consistent, and they understood the system they were participating in. And here's the thing about that system. It is available to everyone. Not just people who grew up wealthy. Not just people with finance degrees. Not just people who know the right people. The S&P 500 does not care where you went to school or what your parents did for a living. The math of compounding works exactly the same for a $1,000 investment made by a 22-year-old janitor as it does for a $1,000 investment made by a 22-year-old investment banker. The outcome depends entirely on the decision to start and the discipline to continue. So let's bring everything together into something you can actually act on today. The path from $1,000 to $100,000 is not a mystery. It is a documented, proven, mathematically inevitable process as long as you follow the system and don't interrupt it. Step 1 is opening a brokerage account if you don't already have one. Fidelity, Schwab, and Vanguard are all excellent options with no account minimums and zero commission trades. Step 2 is buying a low-cost S&P 500 index fund, VUA or FXA. IX are all solid choices with expense ratios under 0.1%. Step 3 is setting up automatic monthly contributions, whatever you can afford, even if it's just $50 or $100 a month. Step 4, and this is the most important step, is doing nothing. Let it run. Don't check it every day. Don't sell when it drops. Don't move it around. Let the compounding engine do what it was designed to do. If you have access to a Roth IRA, use it. The money you invest in a Roth IRA grows completely tax-free. You pay taxes on the money before it goes in, and then you never pay taxes on it again. Not on the growth, not on the withdrawals in retirement. Over 30 or 40 years, the tax savings alone can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. That is free money the government is offering you, and most Americans are not taking it. If your employer offers a 401k with a match, contribute at least enough to get the full match before doing anything else. An employer match is an immediate 50% to 100% return on your money before the market even does anything. There is no investment on earth that can compete with that. The $1,000 sitting in a checking account right now is not safe. It is losing ground every single day. But that same $1,000 moved into the right account, invested in the right fund, and left alone for long enough that $1,000 has the mathematical potential to become $100,000. Not because of luck, not because of skill, because of a system that has been working quietly in the background for decades, building wealth for the people who understood it and had the patience to let it work. Now you understand it too. The only question left is what you're going to do with that understanding. If this video changed the way you think about money and investing, hit that like button and subscribe. We post every week with content that actually moves the needle on your financial life. And drop a comment below. What's stopping you from starting right now? I read every single one. And sometimes the answer to that question is the most important conversation we can have. See you in the next one.